Welcome back to the Nuanced Friends podcast. This is episode 5, and today I have Josh Winiarski with me. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm excited. So, what do you do?
That's a tricky question, but I think I'd sum it up. So my name is Josh Winiarski. I'm 21 years old, and the best word to describe me would probably be content creator. That's how I make money nowadays. That's what I do. I've done photo, I've done video, a little bit of everything. I work at a digital marketing agency now.
Oh, really?
And I don't know if you knew that. And then I do YouTube on the side. I did Instagram for a while. So lots of stuff in that realm.
Dude, that's so cool. I actually had no idea you worked at a digital marketing agency.
Yeah, and there's definitely a story to how I got there, how I got the job and all that. But
Yeah, we'll get there, I think, eventually, because I think we got to start. All right, so you do content creator. So why'd you start, and where did you start?
Yeah, so, I mean, at the beginning, I started, I guess, I've always had an interest in cameras, but it was never something I really thought would get me anywhere. It was just for fun. So, of course, being 13 years old, making YouTube videos, I definitely had a few channels before the one I have now. But making videos with friends, funny movies, short films. I mean, well, let me put it this way. We thought they were funny. No one else did.
That's how it starts, though.
And that was mostly middle school. And then in high school, it was like... High school is where I realized you have to prioritize things, I think. And this wasn't something that was gaining traction. It wasn't something I was super passionate about. I was more concerned on getting into college, getting a career. So it's something I didn't do in high school at all. I didn't take any photography classes, and when I'm thinking about it now, I don't think I took an art class. I think my art credit in high school was architecture.
Not a single regular art, any regular art classes.
I'm thinking,
that's weird.
I can't think of one. I think I squeaked by with architecture.
That's what's up.
I didn't take music. I didn't take ceramics, art. Maybe I wasn't supposed to graduate now that I think about it. I don't know, but I think architecture counted.
So you just said, I'm not creative, and went towards just designing houses and stuff and buildings? That's crazy.
I mean, my whole life I've been the math and science guy, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was known for if you ask anyone from high school. My favorite classes were physics and calculus, and art was that thing that, if you did that, you weren't going to make money. I mean, that's the way I was raised.
Yeah, I was raised the same, very similar. And so, yeah, I took piano, which I guess is kind of artistic in that sense of creation. But
right.
Yeah, I definitely was not into art at all growing up. I was definitely in math. I took physics. I took calculus.
Right.
All that boring stuff.
Yeah, of course. So I was pursuing the math, the science. But one of the things I did for fun in high school was I played a lot of video games. And when I say that, this is a little embarrassing to admit, but at one point in my life, I was playing about 50 hours a week.
That's rookie numbers.
It sounds like rookie numbers, but it was during the summer. I didn't have a job. But I remember my Steam hours hit 100 hours for the past 2 weeks.
Oh, gosh. That's actually insane.
Insane. It was playing video games was my full-time job.
Yeah, I feel you.
Except, I wasn't getting paid, and I wasn't streaming or anything.
That was before really streaming took off, though.
Yeah, it was the beginning of streaming. So
you should have hopped on.
I should have hopped on.
You could have been an early creator.
But that's actually where I got back into video, and it wasn't what I'm doing now by any means. But I was spending so much time playing video games. I was like, why not record it? And that's actually how my current YouTube channel started. Now, a lot of those videos are private. A few of them are still up, but if you go back about 4 years, it's just me dinking around with friends, and that's how I got back into video editing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I would have guessed that.
Yeah, most people wouldn't, especially if you look at my channel now. It's completely different. But
yeah, because I've scrolled over your channel a few different times, just going past, because I always just check up, see how you're doing, just. Because I like to watch my friends grow and whatever they do.
Yeah.
Personally, so I think I followed you, or I heard about your YouTube channel. Oh gosh, dude, I think it was early on your days. I think I remember the first episode I watched of you was when you made a little tutorial video of how to use the manual settings.
Oh boy. Remind me to private that one. But no, I mean, it was very low key at the start. I was actually there was only a handful of people I told I even had a channel, And a lot of that goes back to in high school, which most people are, but in hindsight, I was like very self-conscious.
Oh, I totally understand that. High school is a very awkward age to start doing all that stuff.
At the time, if you'd asked me, I would have been like, nah, I'm cool. I don't care what anyone thinks. But looking back, yeah, it was, putting myself out there was very scary. I was never good at public speaking. You know, if I was in a group, I would like do anything. I'd do all the work if someone else would present. Like stuff like that scared me. Putting myself out there was not easy at all.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of common issues. I could public speak, but like really putting your true self out there is very, or just like anything that you've worked on really hard is really intimidating.
Yeah, but I mean, fast forward from there, going into college, pursuing the engineering. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but my dad's an engineer.
Oh, really?
My brother just graduated in computer engineering. Pretty much everyone on my dad's side of the family has done something in STEM.
Oh, nice.
And it was always what I was good at. It's what I wanted to do after college. And I actually had this belief that, I don't want to say I thought you couldn't be successful without college, but there was nothing, like the idea of not going to college never occurred to me. It was like a very natural thing.
Yeah, I've always been born and raised like, oh yeah, I'm going to college.
Right.
I need a STEM job to make a living.
Right. I mean, that was the only path. It was like I hadn't even considered anything else.
Yeah.
And then my first year at college, heck, not even my first year. Let's go to the beginning. The first quarter, I got rocked. Like, I got rocked really hard by my first calculus course.
Yeah?
And when I say that, I mean, my first midterm score was so bad, I should have dropped the class. Like, I should have dropped. And this is me, you know, this hotshot guy coming out of high school, was always good at STEM, did great on my SATs, got into the college I wanted, and I got completely rocked. So, I mean, for credit, I got a 40% on the first midterm. And it very much depends on the school. So to give myself some credit, like the average on that was a 60%. So everything's graded on a curve. But it was kind of at this point where if I didn't step it up, I was going to be retaking the class. And as someone who got mostly A's in high school, that was terrifying.
Yeah. That is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, kind of realizing that, oh, hey, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Or maybe I should actually study now because it's not high school.
Yeah,
I think that was my
the
awakening for college.
Yeah. Thankfully, you know, I've always been a hard worker. You know, maybe I slacked a little that quarter, you know. But I actually came back and I put in a lot of time. And I think I got the lowest passing grade by the end of the quarter. Not the lowest passing, it was the lowest you could get if you wanted to do engineering. So it was well above, like, I think a 1.7 passes or something, which is, like, not good.
But you probably needed that, like, what, 2.5? Something.
I believe it was around 2.5, yeah.
Yeah, that's what a lot of my classes do very similarly. It's like, you can pass this class, but you need a 2.5 to move on.
Right, and I remember when I got that final score back, I think I had exactly, like, the GPA to not retake it. And I remember calling my dad and just being like, I did it. I was so excited. I was like, I was so glad to be done.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, not to stay too long on that, but throughout the year, I kept going on the engineering classes, and I actually got way better at them after that. Like, you know, those 2.5s, 2.8s became like 3.5s, 3.8s. Like, you know, I definitely got everything together, but that summer, for the first time, I wasn't sure if I was on the right path. And that was a weird thing when you're 18, 19 years old.
Yeah. Definitely. It's definitely, I don't know. I think a lot of people at that first year of college are like, oh man, is that what I really want to do?
Yeah, it was the first time in my life when I'd even considered anything else. And in hindsight, that's crazy, right? Like, you're 19 years old. This was the only thing I'd ever thought of. It was like my whole life was laid out for me. But that summer, I actually got a job working at an industrial facility. So I actually worked out at the paper mill.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is pretty funny. I knew someone who, it was like a mutual friend of mine had a dad who worked there who got me a job. And they called it an internship. I wouldn't call it that, but on paper, I had an internship there. And it was just grunt work. I'd get up at 5 a.m., work anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day, doing stuff like cleaning, sweeping, mopping, like a lot of grunt work. And that summer, I spent a lot of time really thinking, what do I want to do when I go back to school? Like, I didn't know. And that was I mean, for the longest time, it was really weird because I didn't know who I was anymore.
Yeah, because you focus a lot on just like, oh, I'm good at math science, I'm going to do engineer. And
I was questioning who I was.
That's
and that
crazy.
It was
That's
weird.
rough.
And it's scary to not know who you are being in college with, like, you know, I mean, don't get me started. Like, a textbook's $150. Like, you don't want to be taking things. You don't want to be taking classes you don't have to. But unfortunately, that was just the beginning. That next year, I explored everything. I took classes in business. I took classes in communication. So, I mean, accounting classes, economics.
Yeah.
I actually did take a public speaking class because that was something I was so self-conscious about. Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff like that. And it was weird because I was still taking the engineering classes on the side.
Yeah.
So I'd take, like, you know, 2 engineering classes and I'd try a business class because I was really trying to find something I wanted to do.
So you're continuing at least one path, but you're also trying to like explore other options as you could.
Yeah. And, you know, eventually it dawned on me that all I wanted to do was video production. And this might sound a little bit out of nowhere because I haven't touched on it. But all the time on the side, you know, I'd spend 50, 60 hours a week on these engineering classes.
Yeah.
But then all of my spare time, I bought my first camera at college. I got really into hiking. So I was taking these beautiful nature photos. In hindsight, they weren't beautiful, but at the time, I thought they were good. I got involved in a film production club because my school didn't have, like, a film major.
Oh, interesting. Where'd you go to school?
So I went to University of Washington, which is also a very STEM-based school.
Yeah, it is.
Big school, a lot of majors, but I was really struggling to find one that I fit in. I would talk to, you know, kids that were older than me. I would talk to advisors. I talked to my dad a lot. And I tried just so many things. At one point, I was even going to 2 colleges at once, which is kind of funny. I was doing web design at UW Bothell.
Okay.
Which is about an hour bus ride away. I didn't have a car up at college, so I'd take classes in Seattle, take an hour bus to Bothell, take a 2-hour class, another hour bus ride back every day.
Dang.
I had it. Get home at 9 p.m. every day.
That's crazy.
I mean, I tried everything, but at the end of the day, all I could see myself doing was video production or like photography or something in that realm. Yeah.
That's crazy. So that's kind of where you got into. So what made you buy your first camera though? I guess your first camera up there. Was it just because you got into hiking and you wanted to capture some of those moments, or?
So I was still making YouTube videos on the side.
Okay.
I mean, for all intensive purposes, I didn't have a lot of a social life. And I say this like I had friends. We did stuff on the weekends. But I spent a lot of time really... I was scared to not know where I was going. So I spent a lot of time exploring.
Yeah.
So I was still making YouTube videos. And I was more into the video. But I'd see people like Peter McKinnon had just kind of... started taking off, Chris Howe, all those people.
Yeah, dude,
And I was like, this photography thing is kind of rad. So combined with the hiking, it just kind of came naturally. And that's when I bought my first DSLR, which was a Canon T6.
Oh, nice.
Before that, I'd used my dad's, which was a Canon 20D.
I don't know what that one is. I don't think I've seen it.
My camera's about 18 years old now.
Don't do it. That's why.
But it was enough to learn the manual settings. But, that's how I got into it.
That's crazy. Yeah, 'cause I honestly, I bought my first camera, I think it's like a year and a half ago or so. And I was like, I saw my buddy Vance started taking photos. I really got into like this, like, Peter McKinnon was really like,
of course,
dude, he's awesome and he's excited about what he does.
Yeah.
So obviously him, and then just following other people on social media, I was like, man, I just want to take pictures because I think that'd be cool.
Right.
And I look back at some of the pictures I took, I'm like, ooh, I haven't increased my skill that much, but I can still tell, like, just the way I like frame things and all that. I just don't
absolutely.
like it as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I would never have guessed I would have been into like creative outlets more, such as like videos or photography or even like now podcasts. I wasn't even on my radar.
Right.
In high school.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, so like I said, I spent a lot of time exploring, and by junior year, I still wasn't in a major, which is a problem.
That tends to be an issue.
That's an issue. The advisors, there's some credit rule, and they're actually gonna like let's just put it nicely, but they were going to kick me out of school essentially because by a certain number of credits, you need to be in a major. They want you to graduate. But for whatever reason, I couldn't commit to any of these because I'd go through the list. There's like 100 majors.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do any of them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it was weird, and it'd be a little bit vulnerable. That was the hardest time in my life. I spent a lot of time really not depressed, but unhappy, kind of like not excited for the future. It was the first time I wasn't excited to like do anything. Like I didn't like my classes. I didn't see a career in them that would make me happy. All I wanted to do was make videos.
Yeah.
And that's weird being, 20 years old now. It's like, grow up. That's a kid dream, right? Make internet videos. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's so silly. But it was the only thing I really cared about. When you care about something that much, I think it's hard
to do anything else.
It's hard to do anything else. It was all that was on my mind. I'd, go 60 hours a week doing schoolwork or whatever, and I'd get excited for that 5 hours I could spend watching editing tutorials or something.
Oh, yeah. At least but when you have that level of excitement, you're like, all right, I know at least my passion's there, like something. So you're making YouTube videos still on the side. Are they still YouTube videos. Gaming videos, or did you switch over more to photography, or where did you make that switch?
That switch came pretty close to coming to college. What's funny is when I bought my Canon T6, my first DSLR, I recorded a video on that camera. With some like $80 point and shoot I bought off eBay. And the first 2 camera-based videos I made are still the highest viewed videos on my channel.
Really? That's crazy.
It's crazy. One of them is over 300,000 views. And let's just say it's made me a decent amount of money.
That's awesome.
And I've never touched it since, but I enjoyed it so much. There were a bunch of terrible jokes. At one point I said, like, this lens isn't going to knock your socks off. And I took my socks off and threw them. And for some reason, people thought it was funny. In hindsight, it's the stupidest thing in the world.
No, that's awesome.
But my sense of humor hasn't really changed since then.
That's perfect. No, I like that joke.
It was so dumb, but I loved it so much. And I think one of the things that's always stood out to me with video is I am naturally like a very self-conscious person, but video was the first chance I had to really be myself. It was like I stopped caring what people thought of me. It was the first outlet I've ever had.
Yeah. That's really cool. So beginning of college, you started making more camera based like photography, videography,
right,
all that type of videos. And I haven't seen your earliest stuff. I think the one that sticks out to me the most is when you started messing with After Effects more, and you did the lightsaber thing.
Yeah.
That was funny to me. I actually enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear because I can't watch those anymore.
Oh, why not? You've seen it too many times.
Dude,
Cringy.
I just... to be fair, I cringe at anything that I made like 3 months ago, which normally just means I'm learning, but...
I mean, always learning though, so obviously you're gonna look back and you're like, oh man, that was not ideal.
Yeah.
No, dude, I've watched a few here and there, and I like them. I think you're different than everybody else I've seen so far, so I think that's a plus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit quirky, I'm a little bit weird, but when you find people that like you for that, it's very empowering. And like I said, I was always self-conscious of myself, especially in high school, but even up through college.
Yeah, so what keeps you like motivated, I guess, to keep making these YouTube videos or on these side projects? That must be a lot doing a full-time job.
Yeah.
At the time you're doing full-time school, and then you're also making videos on the side.
People have came up to me and said, your work-life balance is crazy, but I just tell them, it's a lot more work. It's not quite as balanced as I'd like, but it's one of those things that I love so much, and as I've like grown on YouTube, I'm actually very close to 9,000 subscribers now.
Wait, really?
Yeah, really.
I checked out like, how much have you grown in the past like 4 weeks?
So here's
I'm just curious because I think when I looked at you after, because I was watching the Daniel Schiff video, where he mentions you, and I looked at it and I went to your channel because like I haven't checked on him in a while. I looked at you like, I want to say like 3,000 for some reason. Or maybe like 6,000.
So I was probably in the high 6,000s at that point.
Okay.
But I mean, here's a little piece of inspiration. My first year on YouTube, I got 82 subscribers.
Damn, that's actually pretty good.
Well, at the time, I don't know, it was okay. 82 subscribers, but that was doing about weekly videos, and this was still the gaming videos.
Yeah.
And my last video I've uploaded now, I think that video alone has got me like over 100.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's like, it's so exponential, and that's why it's so important to just keep putting things out there, because it does grow, but it just takes so much time to gain traction.
Yeah. That's what I've noticed a lot on
But
trends.
if you can stick it out, and here's the thing, you're never going to not make it. Like, there's no like, oh, if you haven't made it in a year, you're done. Right? With stuff like this, it might take you 10 years. I mean, I spent 4 years growing this channel. I've uploaded like 150 videos or something.
That's crazy.
You know, it's a lot of work, and there's not a lot of reward, but when you love it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Yeah, that's what I've noticed too, because like honestly, I just started this. We're only on episode 5.
That's the exciting place to be.
So like,
I miss those days.
I mean, so like, yeah, so I don't actually really check analytics that often. I'll just every once in a while just go see how they're doing, just because I'm curious on who's like, see how many people watch them.
Yeah.
I say, yeah, my first episode has the most views by far.
Yeah.
So I think they listen to that. They're like, oh, I can't listen anymore.
It'll come back up.
Yeah.
It'll come back
I'm
up.
not worried about it, but I think it's funny. But
Yeah.
I think that can be sometimes motivating and also a little like depressing when you first start, because you're like, oh, I just want to like make it big already, but you don't realize. I've talked about this before with some other people, but you don't realize that these people who are made it big now, and you watch yourselves, have been doing it for 10, 15 years before.
Oh, yeah.
Like they'll be doing stuff before they start the YouTube channel, and even when they start, they're still not like. It takes forever to grow.
It's insane, and it's not the person who is the best that makes it. It's if you can just hang in there the longest. But also, I don't want to use the word even hang in there, because you have to love it or there's no point.
I think people can tell if you don't love it.
Absolutely.
Instantly. Oh, it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they can tell, but also you will burn out so quick. And kind of going on that note, like I've kind of bounced back and forth between photo and video.
Yeah.
And I ended up on video, but for a while I was trying to grow on Instagram.
Yeah.
I was really, really trying to grow. I was like doing photo editing all the time, trying to post every week. And I didn't like it.
Why not? So what was the difference of trying to grow on Instagram versus like a YouTube video, I guess?
The difference with Instagram was all I wanted was followers. I wanted followers. I wanted likes. I wanted comments. I'd watch these videos. I'd try and find the right hashtags and all that. And the thing is, I don't care. I mean, at the end of the day, that means nothing. And those are all metrics for measuring your success. If you want to go full-time in anything, you need those high numbers. But they can't be the reason you take photos. Or they can't be the reason you do anything.
That probably wanes out after a while.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's like taking portraits for people has a sense of fulfillment for me.
Yeah.
Taking pictures of cool places I've been, it just felt like I was like trying to flex on people and get these numbers. But it wasn't, there was no deeper thing other than I want these numbers, maybe I can take photos for a living, but it's got to come from somewhere more than that.
No, that totally makes sense. It's not, I don't know. I guess I have my own little photography page. I haven't posted on it forever because I am terrible at like keeping up with it. I couldn't imagine just trying to do it for this numbers because that's stressful.
Yeah, and I would say on YouTube, I mean, it's a balance. It's all a balance, right? Like you can always make some clickbaity video that's gonna do better, but it's not fulfilling, and you'll get excited. You'll get that little rush when it pops off more than your other videos.
Yeah.
But it's not sustainable, and it's not going to build a community. But I felt like with YouTube, I've made stuff that like actually resonates with people, and it's helping them out.
Oh, that totally makes sense. I mean, you've helped me out already because I just happened to watch one of your videos, and you're like, you can go buy these little floorboards and use them as a little countertop, and I was like, that is genius. I'm doing that right now for this thing I'm doing.
Yeah, no, heck yeah.
And so it was like $24, like you said, and I bought them, and they look great.
No, that's awesome. But I mean, I've had people DM me, and this is more recently because, the first 2 years it felt like I was talking to a wall or something. Yeah. But people have DM'd me and really poured themselves out, been like, hey, here's my situation. I'm not happy with my job, stuff like that. And being able to help those people pursue what they want has been more fulfilling than any video that's popped off, than anything else. It feels like I'm actually making a difference. And on that note, like, so many YouTubers have made a difference in my life.
Yeah.
That it's so cool to be able to return the favor.
Like, that's awesome. I didn't even know about that. That's crazy that people just like DM you. I mean, not really, because I mean, I'm not wanting to DM anybody that I follow.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like that. For me, that's weird. But
Yeah.
if someone really follows you and cares, and you have that community,
Yeah.
and you DM and the person responds like you did, that's awesome. That's cool, because I like helping people too. So that chance to help people is awesome.
Yeah, and that's what's fueling me now. I mean, it comes down to, like, you know, why would I pursue YouTube? Because let's be real, it's not making as much money as my job or anything like that right now. And even my job's not making that much money, you know, relatively speaking. But it's something that I enjoy so much, and I think if I could build that into a full-time career, that's something that would be super interesting to me, because it's one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done.
No, that's awesome, dude. Fulfillment is definitely where you want to strive for, because if it fulfills, then you actually have the passion to keep doing it will always be there.
Dude, it's at the point where if my channel just tanked and it started getting 100 views, I would be okay with that, and not relying on that for income, for anything else other than, like, I want to make cool stuff that can maybe help other people and I can get better at making videos.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how the video does, and that's so awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's what lets me kind of make the things that I want to make.
I think that's a good spot to be in, just because it's not a stressor, I guess.
Yeah.
In that sense, where it's always fun. I think that's why you want to have a hobby as a hobby and not a full-time job.
Right.
But if your hobby can be your full-time job, it can be dangerous, because then you're like, I gotta make money.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So, I mean, you have this YouTube channel. What was some, like, the things that you had to learn? What was your biggest learning moments, or your, like, some failures that you really had to learn from?
Well,
in that sense?
everything.
I know there's obviously a lot, but I guess if you had to name like one or two.
I mean, the big one again was, like, not pursuing the numbers, because you said you haven't looked at them. Dude, I'm the type of guy who's, like, checking those YouTube analytics every day. And there's some phrase out there that someone a lot smarter than me said, but it's like, a watched pot never boils. And it's like, you know, like, this is not productive. Like, I guess they can't see me, but swiping your thumb down, refreshing the page, looking at the numbers it's not doing any good for you. Like, because for a while I was at the point where if a video did bad, my day was ruined. If I woke up and a video wasn't doing good, I was like, oh, that's it, my channel's done. But, you know, I mean, it sounds funny to say it out loud, but that's how it is. Like, if you're used to getting 200 views and your next video gets 50, it's like, what have I been working for? Like, I just took a massive step backwards. So, I mean, not watching those analytics is a big one, but also taking the time to actually improve with every video.
Yeah.
Like, everyone, you know, talks about consistency, but it's a little more than that. It's actually like improving, right? Like, if you make a mistake in one video, don't make it in the next one. Like, if your audio messed up, fix it in the next one. If your lighting was terrible, figure out why it's terrible.
Yeah, definitely improvement, I guess, would be always the biggest one, because you don't want to stay stationary in that spot, because then you're not growing with your skills should improve over time.
Right.
With what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if they're not, people will tell, and they're just like, oh, this guy's not really working at it anymore.
Well, that, and it's so competitive nowadays.
Especially with COVID.
Yeah.
COVID made it super competitive.
People got a lot of free time.
I have a lot of free time. Well, I had a lot of free time.
Yeah.
Not really anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, honestly, there's one thing I want to talk about, because you alluded this to me earlier. So, you got featured on a pretty big YouTube channel.
I did.
Recently.
Yes.
You want to tell me about this? Because I'm interested on how that happened.
There's a lot of fun stories associated with that. So I made a video, and it was inspired by a YouTuber named Daniel Schiffer.
Yeah, I love that guy.
He's got, I want to say, somewhere between 1 and 2 million subscribers.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty big channel. Been an inspiration of mine. Taught me a lot about commercial filmmaking. And I made a video. I didn't tag him in it. I didn't even tweet at him or any of that stuff. But I just made a video inspired by it, about just making a commercial with stuff laying around the house, cheap stuff. On Keurig coffee.
Yeah, I actually watched that because I noticed it, and I was like, oh, let's see what he did, because
Yeah. Video got to about 800 views in a couple months, and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, cool, that was fun. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And that was that. And then one day, I wake up, and I had more subscribers because I still check the analytics too much. Let's be real.
Once you get to a point, like for me, since I only have like 10 subscribers, and I probably know every single one of them by name, like I just know who's watching it.
Yeah.
And if I see like, I haven't seen a huge different spike in anything, just because I am so new, obviously, and so like my numbers aren't gonna tell me anything.
Sure.
But you're at a different point where you have a few thousand. You can kind of tell what your community kind of wants and what you did. If you did something well in this video, it'll kind of show in the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, it wasn't until recently I felt like I had a community, but
yeah,
I woke up and there was a little more views, there was a little more subscribers than normal, and I was like, that's interesting. And I guess even before that, someone had commented on my video saying Daniel Schiffer had made something similar to me, because he made a commercial similar to mine, and I honestly thought it was a complete coincidence when I took a look at it.
Yeah.
Because it went up on Instagram about 2 weeks before it went up on YouTube.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting, kind of cool. He did the same thing as me. But when I woke up that morning, I realized, oh, my views are up, my subscribers are up, and he uploaded a new video. Oh. And the gears started turning, and like, I was running late to work, but I scrubbed through the video, didn't even watch the whole thing, and I saw myself in there, and like, the heart rate spiked. I was like, what is going on? And that whole day at work, hopefully my boss doesn't listen to this, but I was not focused on work. I was checking my phone. I was just swiping, and all these DMs were coming in being like, oh, you were on Daniel Schiffer's channel and all that. Yeah. But what's funny is, like, a lot of the people I work with watch Daniel Schiffer.
Really? I mean, that makes sense for what you do.
I'm more of a low-key person. Like, I wasn't going to walk into work and start showing people everything.
Yeah.
But my boss walks in, I was in the middle of an edit, and he's like, dude, you're on Daniel Schiffer's channel. And my response, which was, I was trying to be mellow, but it probably came off as cocky. I was like, oh yeah, it's just me and Dan. It's just me and Dan. He's like, wait, you know him? And then I was like, no, I don't know him, but it's pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's weird because you think it'll never happen to you.
Yeah. That was wild when I saw you, because I know you personally.
Yeah.
I watched Daniel, and I don't know him. I found him like a year or so ago because of Peter McKinnon. So I was like, oh, these are people I'll never like know, somebody who's ever been associated even loosely.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I see you pop up. I'm like, I got the biggest smile I've gotten in a long time, just because I'm like, dude, I know him.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's weird because it felt like for the first time, it was almost 4 years into the channel, I was like, I've done something.
Yeah. It
was a really big hit, and it was like, he's not the type of guy who features someone in every video even. It's like, every few videos you'll see one other YouTuber with 100,000 subscribers or something.
Yeah, you don't see him really
shout out anyone.
Never.
No.
So,
let alone little old me making a commercial in my parents' garage, like buying arts and crafts from the store, trying to throw something together. But
yeah, so I mean, that was super cool. Yeah, so what was like afterwards, I guess, in the following weeks after that went up? So what happened to your channel after that?
So we exploded a little. In all honesty, less than I expected, but I'm also okay with that.
Yeah.
So to put some metrics on it, I probably gained about 1,200 subscribers from that. In total, the metrics show a little less, but I know some people didn't watch the video and subscribe. Metrics are a little iffy, but I would estimate around 1,200. And this is after I've already built something, right? Like I was at 6,000 or so.
Oh yeah.
But it's definitely a big jump, don't get me wrong. But I'm glad it didn't just like send me down a path necessarily, because some people get shouted out and then they're like stuck making things. I'm still figuring out what I want to do.
Yeah.
But it was cool to be recognized, because I feel like I'm like a lot of people who just look up to him. Like, I don't think I'm anything special, but like a lot of people I think could relate to that, because they're like, dude, this guy's like at my level, but I don't know. I just feel like that strengthened my community so much.
I would say so. Especially anytime a big YouTuber shouts out just one guy who's like, well, you've been doing it for a while, but who's really just finally gaining some traction on the platform. it really just makes other people like, oh dang dude, like he's doing something cool. That's someone bigger who's like, oh that's sick, I want to do that in this video.
It is like, it's one of those things where when I get shouted out, it almost feels like everyone at my level is getting shouted out.
Yeah.
It's just cool because, like, kind of like you said, you got excited when you saw me up there.
Yeah.
And it's hard to talk about because I don't want to come off as, like, some cocky person, right? But it is like I'm the everyday guy who, you know, got a little bit of attention. And it gives hope to people who are like me, who've been at it for years, have made some progress, but definitely not a crazy amount.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I thought I was pumped.
Yeah, it builds community. It's exciting for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's just it's an exciting moment because you're just like, oh, he got someone to shout out. You go, if you don't know Josh, because I knew you personally, so I was like, I already knew you had the YouTube channel, kind of knew where you're at, not really, because I didn't follow closely because I haven't done photography for that long. Because I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, oh, that's so awesome. And I went and saw your channel. I was like, oh, that's sick. He's doing great.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah.
Dude. So I guess what direction do you think you're headed right now within the YouTube, like making YouTube videos and also working? Like, where do you see yourself going right now?
Long term, I've got some bigger goals. I mean, one of the things is, like I said, metrics, views, AdSense, all that. It's important, but I want to get there on my own terms. You know, when you've done it as long as me, you know which videos are going to pop off. Like, a video can get the same amount of views and make 3 times as much money if it's just on a different topic.
Really?
Yeah, so like it depends on which advertisers are bidding on it. So it's actually like I've got a lot of insights there, but I don't want to just sell out for like the short-term views and money. But definitely like making the creative projects kind of like that coffee video is definitely something I want to do more of. Because one, it pushes me to actually get better. There's been periods of YouTube where I feel like I'm just coasting, like cranking out as many videos as possible.
Yeah.
Now I'm at the point where I feel like I'm rewarded for the quality, which is super exciting. Like when I can make something that like I'm proud of and other people resonate with, that's what it's all about. Like that's the dream.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's a different level of like reward just instead of.
And it's like in the first place, I didn't get into video because I wanted to make the most money, because I wanted the most attention. I got into it because it was something I loved.
Yeah.
But like long term, like I'd love to make a documentary. I would love to make something that just really resonates. I don't care where it's on, Netflix, Peacock, YouTube. Like I just want to make something that like really reaches out to people. But short term, next 2 years, like I'll do that on a smaller scale, but it's all about just building up my skills right now.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Like I said, we were talking actually right before the podcast when me and my buddy Vance, we filmed a little short type of B-roll thing, but I wanted to turn it into like a channel intro. Mm-hmm. But I have another like film in mind that I just had like an idea, but before I can do any of that, I have to start somewhere. So we're like, hey, we'll film something small, and that way I can learn and see how people work and be right there, and also work on like sound and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's a process.
It is a process, and there's some phrase out there, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but there's some study at Stanford, and it was like 2 groups of pottery students, and I promise this has a point. Group A is told they have 1 quarter, 1 semester to make as many pots as possible, just clay pots.
Okay.
And then another group of students is told to make as many pots as possible. So one's making the best, one's making as many as they can.
Yeah.
And every time, the group that makes as many pots as they can makes the best pots.
Really?
Because it's all about like grinding them out. Like if they make a mistake, they learn from it and they don't make it the next time.
Yeah.
So if one group makes 10 pots, one makes 100, even if they're working faster, they always made better in the end because it was repetition.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
So right now I'm trying to make my 100 pots, my 1,000 pots, like 100 videos, 1,000 videos. Because every time you mess up on the audio, you mess up on the lighting, you make a fool of yourself talking, it's less likely to happen the next time.
Yeah, definitely have gone more. I've only done 5 episodes, but I definitely want to get to the hundreds and eventually thousands. But like, yeah, I definitely have gotten more comfortable just talking to somebody over a mic. Yeah, it's weird at first.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to tell you, I was not born to be on camera. I was not born to be a speaker. I mean, I'm the kid who was scared to speak in class. I had to take a public speaking class to get better at talking.
Was that one of the best classes you took?
One of the best classes
I agree. I had a public speaking class, and I was always kind of confident in public speaking because I wasn't too worried about like messing up because I had a little more I had confidence on like what I was saying as long as I did the research. But I took that class and I just learned a lot more of like actually how to present something a little bit better and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd recommend to anyone, whether it's in college, high school, something outside of it, because, you know, I mean, it's an essential part of what I do, but it also just helps me like, you know, express who I am, which I think is really important.
Yeah. Oh man, dude, we've talked about a lot of different things, but I think one question that I always have it's tough for me to like answer or even just like continue with this subject is how do you continue to be creative and make new content all the time? And like your video with the like shooting that little like mini coffee commercial, like how do you think of those ideas, or what's your process, or do you take a lot of inspiration from, you do watch a lot and take a lot of inspiration?
Watching a lot is something I should do more of, because that is such a good way to get inspiration. You can get it from the most random videos outside your niche.
Yeah.
So I mean, part of the inspiration for that shot was from like some short film I saw 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, and it was what is it called? I can't remember what it was called. But someone was like doing trick shots essentially, and there was something similar to that like Keurig shot. I think they threw it in the air. It like bounced off some fan blades and fell in the Keurig, and that was the inspiration for kind of like throwing the Keurig cup in the air. And it was just some random short film I'd seen years before. So like watching a lot's always great, but also not rushing into things. Like when you look at a B-roll sequence, it's easy to be like, oh, this guy just handheld everything, like like swung his camera around and it looked great. But a lot of thought goes into that type of stuff.
Yeah, it does. Dude, we did that, like I said, that B-roll.
Yeah.
We spent the first day like 5 hours filming.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to go over the shots. We'd look at the shot, take the shot, look at it. All right, do we like it? No, we don't like it. But since it was my first one and his, like, he's done it a few times, but not that many times, we obviously took some leeway of what we were like acceptable versus like, oh, if we're not going for perfect right now.
Right.
We're just trying to make it look good. That way we have some practice material to work with. But yeah, dude, it took forever to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I would also say a lot of like creativity comes from not having a ton of disposable income. Ever since I was making short films in college, we didn't have the stuff we needed. Like, I was the guy cutting up cardboard boxes to, like, direct light in a certain area. Like, I'd take paper towels, tape them over the lights to be diffusers.
Heck yeah.
And, like, that's still how I make things. Like, I think in my most recent video, well, I know, I put my camera on a skateboard. I don't know if you saw my donut commercial went up last week. But
I saw the ad for it. I saw, like, the
thumbnail or whatever. Thumbnail,
but I just haven't watched it. I actually haven't been watching as much YouTube as I used to.
Hey, that's good. I mean, there's definitely a line between consuming and then making your own stuff.
Well, yeah, so I've been talking with Vance, and I think for me, it's just like working with somebody else and just throwing ideas off each other. Tends to be my way to I keep creative. That's interesting. Oh man, dude. Well, I just want to thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Heck yeah.
You want to shout out any of your social medias or YouTube channels?
If you guys for some reason thought I was interesting, we've got YouTube Josh Winiarski, so Josh Winiarski, or at Winiarski Josh on Instagram.
Oh, heck yeah.
But yeah, if you want to check me out, if you have any questions about life or making money as a creative, I'm there.
Yeah, go give him a follow. I promise you guys will not regret it. I think he's funny, personally. Quirky. He's a cool dude. Does great work. Well, thank you so much for coming on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Have a good one.
Peace.